Okay. Yay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our series. I am extremely excited this morning to sit down with somebody who is not only a dear friend of mine, but someone that I know many far and wide look up to and love. And sometimes we feel like we don't get enough of you. And so I'm very grateful that you're sitting down with me this morning and chatting with me in this intimate setting, but then also being able to inspire and impact those that are far and wide that get to see this. So thank you very much. Tell us.
Asking me to come. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Well, I am excited to have you. So tell us, who the heck are you? Why should we care who you are? Who are you?
Well, okay. Well, my name's Allison Dalke, and why should you care who I am? That's a great question. Good question.
Why should we? Why should we care?
I don't know. No, I have over the past probably, 15 years. It seems ridiculous to say 15 years, but I have this passion for helping women and men chase and find and realize their wildest dreams. And that's like my heartbeat. And the thing about that, though, is dream chasing is so freaking hard. I think discovering what we want is hard. Being honest about what we want is really hard. And then actually doing the work to go after the thing is hard. So anyways, it's like my biggest chasing passion. And I think that was all born out of being a part of the Scentsy family and being able to recognize that I had dreams and desires that I had never really been honest with myself about. And being in this business has allowed me to see those things and then choose to follow them and chase them and, do the hard stuff.
So is it something you would say Scentsy definitely was kind of the vehicle that brought you to realizing kind of your calling?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And that's like I think when I think about this business, that's the thing I'm most passionate about. Is it's not necessarily the products. I love the products. Don't get me wrong. I'm obsessed and all the things, but it's so much bigger than that. And I think it's hard for people to see that initially, but I think the longer, like once they kind of get in and they start to feel this, there's something else here, like something else is going on. That's what it is. It's that heartbeat that starts to the potential of somebody going, man, what if I could make an extra $500 a month? What if I could make an extra $1,000 a month? Whatever it is, and their wheels start to turn. And it's in that I think sometimes they start to realize, oh, my life could look different. And not because of the money, but because of the potential of what that allows them. Right.
Yeah. You were young when you started your Scentsy business, right? How old were you?
Baby. I was 23.
Did you have Addie by then?
Yeah. So Addie was 9 months old. Yeah. I joined like right before my 24th birthday, and Addie was 9 months old. Yeah. So my oldest, who is now 14. Yeah.
All of your kids don't know anything, but
they don't know they don't know.
Yeah.
I also think they don't know what I do,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I think my daughter thinks I only do conference calls.
Right.
And now I see that because both her and Allison walk around the house with a fake, anything that could resemble a phone, and they walk around, and Marin holds conference calls, and Allison doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's talking. And I think they think we are compulsive conference call holders. But when you started, you were a new mom. What were you doing when you started your business?
Like with my life?
Yeah. Where were you in like, because Brian had a job. Brian had a career.
Yeah. So I was teaching 8th grade English at the time, which I want to caveat and say I loved teaching. Like, it is what I was made to do. What I didn't love was dropping my baby off someplace and I didn't know that I was going to feel that way. But that's what really Addie being born is what kind of made me start looking for something else. And I had never sold a thing in my life. I joke that I'm still the worst salesperson in the world. Like I can't sell anything to anybody. I mean, that's not true. Obviously I am, but I I just started praying about, like, I didn't know what it would be, what it would look like, but I knew I wanted to be able to have more freedom, and I needed to make money. Like we needed my income. Brian was working in car sales and he was doing well, but we had just been married for like a year and a half, well, 2 years. And we had bought a house and, done all the dumb young things. And I just couldn't quit my job without something else. And so when I found Scentsy, you know how I say it's sticky, not in like, jelly sticky, but like sticky, it gets in your brain, you can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
I got a room spray. My first product ever was a room spray. Somebody brought me a room spray as a gift. And I was like, how does this work so well in my classroom? It was amazing. And then she brought me all the testers the next day. And I was like, I was a candle fanatic. And so I was like, I'm obsessed with this. I started doing research, and that's kind of where it all started.
So fast forward, you
Yeah.
have been now, did you say it's 15 years almost?
Well,
14?
It's got to be 14. This is going to be 14. 14. Yeah, November will be my 14th anniversary.
And how many times do you feel like this business has changed for you? It's changed your perspective. It's changed who you are as a person, who you are as a wife, who you are as a mom. The evolution is ever changing, right?
Ever changing. I mean, even now, I'm still changing on the constant. That, gosh, I think what I'm super grateful for is those early days. Even as a mama, I remember rocking babies, listening to a conference call with Orville, and getting so much leadership and just life education in those, still small moments, like, that seemed insignificant at the time. But I look back at that and I look at just the confidence that grew in me to actually lead a team. I'm so glad that I was young and stupid, because I was almost young enough to not know to be scared, where now I watch people come in and there's fear of what will people think, and what if I can't do it, and I can't lead a team, like, all of the things.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I was that young, that I was just like, I don't know. And it was more that there was passion and me knowing, like, this is going to be the thing. I want to be home with this baby. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And so it's almost like there was fear, I'm sure, but I was just too laser focused to even acknowledge it. But then it's funny, like over the past 14 years, there have been so many ebbs and flows of fear and confidence. And, it's a constant kind of roller coaster. Not in like in a bad way. Just there are ups and downs, and it continues to, and what's interesting is I think that it's like every time you kind of maybe go down a little bit and you feel like, I don't know if I'm really capable of this next step, or really can I do this next thing? That's where we're growing, right? That's where we're growing into the potential that we actually have to do that very, very thing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have these conversations, about women in business and inspirational women, because women in business, it's a very complex thing, because we bring emotion, we bring self-esteem, we bring, I don't think as much ego as our male counterparts bring to the table. We bring our sensitivities, and a lot of times because of that, we can be our biggest, hardest critics, and we can be harder on ourselves than we ever need to be, because we set these expectations that in order to be successful, we have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And if anything, you and I know in our journeys, there's no such thing as a right way to do something or a perfect way to do something. We still suffer from comparison. You
Oh,
and I have had discussions about, being this far in our journey in this business, and how do we remain relevant?
yeah.
How?
Yeah.
And what is it that still gets us up in the morning? We put our feet on the floor, and we have this business that for you and I has grown into something much larger than just sharing product.
Right.
The product, people love the product. We don't have a problem getting
Yeah.
people to love the product.
Yeah.
But I find that more of our work is getting others like us to believe that Scentsy and anything that becomes anybody's passion, it doesn't necessarily need to be Scentsy, whatever drives you, that you're able to pour yourself into that.
Yeah.
And I know that you, and I bring this up because I know for you, you have done so much to pour into others. Circling back around, you said right in the beginning, dream chasing and helping others realize, because you at 24 didn't realize, and there's women at 44 and 64 that haven't realized their dreams yet. And so circling back around to that, do you feel like sometimes that's a heavy burden? Because in order to continue to inspire people, you have to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a heavy burden, and it's a beautiful one. One of the things that I've been wrestling with, and maybe somebody needs to hear this whenever you're watching this, is that the opposite of the other side of passion is melancholy. And I think that there's a lot of people who have gone to one extreme or the other just in our world lately. And it's either passion or this like sort of like melancholy, like, meh, what's it even matter? Right? Like there doesn't really seem to be a middle ground that I'm seeing lately. It's you're all in, or you're just kind of apathetic about it. Right. And I think so much of that apathy and that melancholy comes from that lack of really having that dream to chase. And it goes back to something you said, also believing, right, that you can do it, believing that it's worth the time and the energy to put forth to go after the thing. And I bring this up because I have found myself in that place before, where at times I am full on fire and blazing a trail, right? And then there's times when it does feel like a burden, and I just feel like I don't want to, because it is hard. And I do feel, and I am an all or nothing person. Like there is no middle switch for me. Like I can't kind of like, halfway do something. I just can't. And so I've had to really learn what healthy boundaries look like and what rhythms look like. And I even asked some questions to myself about like, what does this business look like in different seasons? Because forever I've run it the exact same way, month to month, goal to goal. And now 14 years later, I'm asking bigger questions about how do I do this well long term? How do I continue to carry the beautiful burden that it is, but do it well in a way that's life-giving to me and life-giving to others? And so those are just things that like I'm wrestling with and questioning.
Well, because and I used that word burden because we put that burden on ourselves because we have a responsibility, we feel, to our people.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to those that look to us. When we are off, our people know.
Mm-hmm.
When we disappear, our people know. And I always equate not always, this is newer, but I equate showing up in my business to showing up as a mom. I made the commitment to being a mother. I can't wake up one day and decide I don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a commitment to my business and to my people and to my customers and to those that look to me. I can't wake up and decide to not show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of the power in continuing to show up is finding people with the common thread that can relate to you, can feel for you, and that you can lean on when you're having those moments, so that they can, because 9 times out of 10, you and I aren't going to have the same kind of day.
Right.
So if I'm feeling less than, but I know I have you and I can come to you, and you're probably not having a day where you're feeling as less than as I am, and you can pull me up.
Yeah.
So speak to the importance of having other women in this business from almost an accountability. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to the importance of community and having that to lean on?
Yeah. So I think it's really important that you really have kind of almost like 2 kinds of people in your business around you. And I would say that the first kind are the people that are running the same race with you. So like I would say me and you and I know, just like you said, that I can come to you regardless of, and just say, this is where I'm at, like
100%.
And you can speak life into that, because we're in the same place and we're running towards the same things. Right. But I also think it's really important that you have people that are a little bit ahead of you, that are saying, and maybe not a little bit, maybe a lot of it ahead of you, for you to say, for just that wisdom of saying, it's not always going to look the same. And every season might be different. And I think that sense of community and finding those people is so vital. And some of you may have that built in with your leader or with your director or whatever, but also maybe you don't. But that's not an excuse for you to say that my leader's not around, I don't have anybody to look to. That's the biggest excuse I've ever heard, and such a waste of your time and mine. Like, don't even say that. There are so many people, even if it's not somebody that you can physically sit with, even if it's somebody that you're looking at as a mentor that's sharing online, that's showing up, like Gratz said, like that you can go to and watch and learn from, that matters, that counts. So don't use the excuse of, well, I don't have those people around me. Yes, you do. And if you don't, you can find them.
So does that, okay, I'm going to put you on blast for a second and say, people look to you. People look to you so that they can set their sails for their course. You've built that. You have an enormous following of people that look to you. And sometimes it goes back to that burden. Sometimes that burden is heavy, that we're kind of like, I need to step back because I need to be centered again.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have people that look for you and want more of you. Coming into this interview, not only were you on my short list of people that I wanted to sit down with, but the people that love you want to hear from you too. And I think that is testament to your journey. I think it's testament to who you are as a person. I think it's testament to how you make people feel. You make them, you don't scratch the surface with people. That's one of the things that I love about you. You actually make reflection important. You've always talked about dreaming. You've talked about being intentional. Something else that you've talked about that I want you to speak to is something that you've said, and I know this has stuck with me and it's stuck with some others as well. You have said to say yes to anything is to say no to something. Can you talk about that?
I just said this last night on a training. I was sitting with Jerry Spry and we were talking, and I said that exact same thing. And it's so true. I want to bring up a couple things that you said. I want to expound upon them. But yes, I read a book several years ago called The Best Yes. And the entire message behind that book is every one of your yeses is also a no. And I think that it's so vital that we keep that in our brain, that when I am saying yes to something, and this goes, I mean, you can take this concept any place in your life, but even specifically in your business, one of the things that I talk to my team a lot about is, even when we're talking about tasks, like the things that you're spending your time doing, are they worth it? Because at the end of the day, that yes to that task is a no to something else. And what I find, And this is just something I see a lot that I think is a huge issue. There's a lot of people doing a lot of busy work that is not their best yes. It is not the best use of their gifts and talents. It is not the best use of where they're being called in their business to that next step. And it's actually an excuse. It's procrastination that becomes an excuse, and it's tasks that are not actually driving their business forward. And so they're not the best yes. They're a no to something greater. And so we have to be careful what we say yes to. And even on a broader scale, on the flip side of that, I know there's so many women who are working too much. You're addicted to and I would even say idolatry, like looking at this business as, you don't see it that way, but some of you are looking for your affirmation from this business and from people, and that's not where it's supposed to come from. And so that can become an addiction of, I have to keep going and I have to do more and I can't stop. And we were talking about showing up, and I think showing up is so vital, but we have to be careful that we don't confuse showing up with meaning I have to be on 24/7, 7 days. That's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. And there can be an extreme of, no, you're working way too much. And because you're saying yes to what you're building, you're saying no to your family or to your marriage or to whatever else is of value in your life. And that's not okay. And I think that a lot of times we're just not doing the internal reflection to look and say, okay, are these my best yeses? Am I missing a yes somewhere else? It's just super important that there's reflection and taking the time to internalize and think through, what am I spending my time doing, and does it matter?
Go ahead. You had a couple other things you wanted to.
The other thing I want to talk about is when we were talking about, we had the conversation when I first got out here about being relevant. It is something I've struggled with because I am 14 years in the business, and my business looks different than the majority of people who have a Scentsy business, really. And that's a huge and amazing gift. But I'm also in a stage where leaders leading long-term and doing that well is incredibly important to me. And not just my leaders. I think leaders across our field. I remember, I'm just going to tell this story. I very remember there was a specific instance that shook me to my core. This probably happened like 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing a launch party for a new team member, and it was at the home of a woman who used to be super high up in another company, mega successful, really successful company. And I was having conversation with her. She was nice enough to host it was a good friend of my new team. So she was hosting, and we were having conversation. I was asking her, like, tell me about your business and what happened. And she was like, well, it got to the point where I had 2 teenage kids and they were involved in so many things, and I didn't feel like I could do both well. And she left. Like, she just completely walked away from everything she had built. And I remember driving home and being emotional about it. And it wasn't this business, it was another direct sales business. But I just remember thinking, God, if that's what our industry is moving toward, and I had seen that a lot anyways, this burnout, like people feeling like I can't manage all this. And I just remember being so shaken by that. And it was that day that I was like, I want to build differently. I do not want to get to the place where I have teenagers and I feel like I can't handle both of these things, because this has been one of the biggest gifts of my life. And I do not want to burn myself out and feel like I can't manage that. Here's what I believe. I believe that I can be an incredible leader and an incredible mom and an incredible wife at the same time. And I believe the same thing about you, and about every single person watching this. It is possible, but it means you probably are going to have to do something differently than what you're seeing, because there's a huge majority of people who are burning themselves out, burning the candle on both ends, and eventually there's nothing left.
But sometimes when you're in the thick of that, you don't even know how to change that until the burnout happens. And I think that's dialing it back to having a network that you can rely on to go to say, I need you to put me in check, because I'm sure you have been through a season of this in your life. We all have. We've worked ourselves to death to where we're like, at the end of the day, what am I doing this for? I've lost sight of myself. I've lost sight of what's important to me. I've become almost robotic. And we know that's not sustainable. So speaking then to, I think that's where the passion component comes in. Mm-hmm. You have to find what you love about what you do. Yeah. Because when you love, you don't have to love everything that you do. There's things that we have to do we don't love. Right? Yeah. But when love is driving a lot of what you're doing, it is easier to wake up in the morning and say, I got this. Yeah. So I want to ask you, this is one of my favorite questions to ask, and I want you to just throw them at me. Tell me everything you love. What do you love? Not just in your business, just in life. What do you love?
Oh my gosh. By the way, if you're watching this, you should do this. Write this down in a journal. Like, sit down and just write the things you love. I do this on the regular. I love my babies. I love my husband. I love traveling. I love watching women walk into their potential. I love watching women awaken to their potential. Like, I love seeing that happen. Man, I really love my house smelling good too. I really do. I lost my smell recently, y'all, and that was horrendous. That'll make you realize how much you love smell when you can smell again. I was like, oh, it's back. Anyways, God, I love the beach. I love reading. I love plants. I love people at my table. I love cooking, wine. I could go on forever, Gratz.
Go. I'm not done. Go. What else?
What else?
There's a reason why this is important.
Yeah. I love writing. I love sitting with a cup of something hot and reflecting. I love looking at, I am a super introspective person. I don't think I've always been that way, but I do love taking time, and I don't always do it. But when I do, it's so healing and helpful to me to be able to stop and say, okay, it's sort of like this. What do you love and what's important to you? And are those things that you love being given importance and space in your life? Right? Because did I go where you were going?
This is but here's what's really interesting is that I have my perspective on why I have you do this. But then I also, because this is something, and I didn't know, although I could have guessed, I didn't know this is something that you do. But I want your perspective on why you do it too. So maybe we'll start there. Why is it important to realize and recognize and call attention to the things that you love? Why is that important?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Here's the thing. I think we're in a very, very, I don't even know what the word is, challenging time right now, and not because of our culture or economics or the world, none of that, specifically because of social media. I think if you look at the statistics, if you do any research on what our brains are actually able to handle, we are given more information. We are intaking more information in one single day than people in the let's like just a little over 100 years ago, late 1800s, more than they processed in their entire lives.
Say that again. What? Say that again.
In one single day, you are taking in, processing more information than people in the late 1800s were processing in their entire lives. And that's you intaking information. That is not you processing information. And therein is where the problem lies, is that you are constantly being inundated with information, with opinions, with what other people are doing and seeing and saying and believing, and you're not processing it. And when we don't take the time to actually process and think for ourselves, it becomes incredibly detrimental. I believe that's why we're seeing anxiety soar to unrealistic heights, where people literally can't wrap their minds around peace and calm. And I know there's a lot going on in our world, but it's so much bigger than that. It's that our brains are attempting to do something they were never meant to do. And I'm not saying you have to walk away from social media or you shouldn't scroll. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to be careful of what you're taking in. And you also have to make sure that you're processing out. And what you just asked me is that exact thing. What do you love? I think we have gotten away from people even knowing what they love and what's important to them, because they're being told from other sources what should be important to them. And it's not okay. It's just not. And so I did a challenge on my team. We do a growth challenge every month, and it actually has nothing to do with business. It's just about growing personally. I found that when people get stuck, it's because there's personal growth that they have to do that they're unwilling to do or they don't know how to do. And so we do a growth challenge every month. And one of our growth challenges was to journal every day. And I will tell you what, my team went kicking and screaming into this challenge, and they did not like it because they're like, what do you mean I have to sit and write? I mean, you have to sit and write. And I don't care what you write. I want you to start to process and let out of your head all the things you're holding in. It doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to be for anybody else, but you have to learn how to process everything you're intaking if you're going to take in that much information. Because if you don't, how are you going to know who you are or what you believe or what's important to you or what you love?
Like I love this, and I love what you said, and I could continue to talk about this because I'm just fascinated by everything that you said, how we are just, it's literally like we're walking through our daily life with dodgeballs thrown at our face. You're bobbing and you're weaving and you're trying to figure out which ball to catch and which to deflect. And you don't even have time to think for yourself to know which ball to grab.
When you have your notifications on, you do not have control of your time or your life.
That is so true. It is so true. It is.
You don't.
And I fall victim to that. It happens all the time. Autumn will be talking to me and she will say, hey, is that date on the calendar? Do we have blah, blah, blah? And I'll look and my screen's full of notifications. And I, of course, because it's natural, right? This is where we do. Tagged you in a photo. And now I was supposed to go to the calendar and I am looking at what I got tagged in on social media.
Yeah.
And she will say, calendar, you completely lost your way. And so if you add up all of those times that we're doing that.
And what about all the times you're not sitting with her for her to get you back on track? And it happens just in your life, right?
Absolutely.
You're trying to work and you pull it up and no one's there to pull you back.
Absolutely. But then we've also become a society of now. We have become a society of, if I want something, Amazon will have it on my porch within 24 hours. I have text message and phone call and private message and Instagram DM and all of these ways for people to reach out to me. And I struggle with, I'm overwhelmed. There are too many ways to get to me.
Yeah.
And I can't respond in a timely fashion on all of those avenues. And so now I'm deficient. And I am like starting my days behind. And so coming back to what you said about taking the time, I can tell you for a fact, and I know you agree with me, that the majority of the people that we know and the women that we know don't take enough time for themselves to sit with their thoughts.
Nope, they don't.
And so much of what's regurgitated out there is other people's thoughts and beliefs and wants and opinions, that we've lost who we are as individuals because we allow everybody else to tell us what we should think and believe, even about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I love that you bring up something that I have started doing. So I went, many of you know this, I went in July to Adie Mitchell's house. She lives out in I'm going to say, no offense to Adie, but she lives in the middle of nowhere in Utah, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And she has acres and acres and animals. And the closest Costco is 3 hours away and the closest Walmart is an hour away. And that is such a different life for me. But she and her husband are very intentional about starting their mornings together. and they sit and they talk, and it's about anything and everything, and that's how they start their day. And so we participated in that with them, and we came home, Autumn and I came home in July with a refreshed perspective on what's important on how to start your day. And so now it's become something I'm addicted to. My day can't start until I've had time to sit with my thoughts. That's when I've been doing my Instagram posting. That's when I've been, Instagram's kind of become my daily log. And that's okay, whatever the vehicle or whatever it is for anybody, that's neither here nor there, but I've become addicted to it. And I wish that you and I could inspire more women to sit a little longer.
Yeah. It's amazing how that is such a, like, even when I did it with my team, I asked them just to free write 3 pages a day. And I didn't tell them how big like, whatever, just sit and write, just process. And there is something, research will show that there's something different about you holding a pen and writing words than typing on a computer or writing words on your phone. It's different. Your brain responds differently. Your mind opens in a different way when you have a pen in your hand and you're processing information physically that way, in a non-technological way. But what I found and what my team found too, I've been doing this for years. I call it my morning pages. I read a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And you don't need to be an artist to read this book or go through this program. It absolutely changed my life. It made me stop and process and ask questions. Like, even you saying people can reach me too many ways and I'm starting my days behind and all of those things. You, at some point, you have to ask your question. You have to ask the hard questions. Like, is this the best way? Like, everybody, and that's what's so hard about our culture is, well, everybody else is doing it. So my grandmother is so livid that I am not on Facebook or Instagram anymore. She could really, she's livid about it. I'm like, Nana, listen, like, it's not for me right now. And I'm not saying it's not ever going to be for me again, but I spent a lot of time creating a lot of content and sharing with a lot of people. And the thing that happened for me is it became a source of idolatry for me. And I'm going to tell you why. It became where I was seeking affirmation. So I would write something that I had processed through, and I am a writer. That's part of my gifting and what I was made to do. I know that. But what was happening was I was writing something and then I was posting it, and then I was waiting to see what everybody else thought. And that's just the wrong heart posture. And so when my heart was inclined to wait to see what someone else's opinion of my opinion was, it all came to a head one day. And I realized, like, wow, I didn't realize how much, because I wasn't just writing it for me. And it's okay to write for other people, but it's not okay to seek your affirmation from other people, right? And that's what happens sometimes when we're in the social media world, and it can become idolatry on any levels. It can be you and envy, and you and comparison, and you and lust, and all of the things that you can see and be a part of. But it can also be that seeking of affirmation from somebody else. And so when I realized, like, oh, wow, what if I just took some time off and I wrote for me and me alone? And I actually processed my thoughts, not in a way where I was going to wait to see what somebody else thought about them, but just a processing of my thoughts. It's amazing. I would even challenge anybody watching this to take a week and commit to just sitting down with it. It doesn't need to be fancy. It can be paper from your printer, and just processing. And so many people are like, I don't even know what to write. Yeah, I know you don't know what to write. That's okay. But start writing and see what happens. You don't even know what's inside you. There's so many thoughts and and it can be anger, and it can be frustration, and it can be joy, and it can be ideas. If you read my journal, you would think I was psychotic, because I will jump from, I have this idea for my team, to this is what I'm dreaming about, to this is where I want to be in 5 years, to I want to make this new recipe, like all the just things I'm thinking that I need out of my head. You know,
Yeah.
it's life changing.
And there's a ton of different systems for that. Some people will say I leave a notepad on my nightstand so that I can brain dump before I go to sleep. And I think it's important to, to acknowledge that when you do write, if you're writing for yourself, does it matter if it's linear? Does it matter if it's perfect sentences?
No,
it can be a cluster. It can be a brain dump. It can be something that you can come back to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to acknowledge or deal with all of those things you dump.
Right.
I like what you said because I've been in that place where the affirmations and my feeling of my value came from the responses of others. But I will say, and I truly can say this because I feel it, when I got recently to a place where I am so okay with me and that I am enough for myself, that I have it to give for others.
Yeah.
So I'm writing for myself, and I'm really saying this about my Instagram posts and my morning ritual and my daily whatever. I'm writing it for me. And if I can positively affect somebody in one way, I don't care if they tell me or not. I don't need that to go on with my day.
Right.
My like count doesn't drive me. But if I can impact you, whether you tell me or not, I had already impacted myself.
Yeah.
So you are getting it after.
As an overflow.
So I think it's important, though, to see that line that you and I have drawn, because I've been what you described.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on the other side of that right now. And who's to say that's gonna stick? We all go through, like you said, ebbs and flows. There's going to be days where I wake up and I absolutely feel less than.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm enough, and I'm not enough for myself. But finding that outlet when you feel good, whatever it is important. It goes back to reflecting. It goes back to sitting down with your thoughts and processing. It goes back to building your love list. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't even know what you love, how can you give any of yourself to anything?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to flip. I could talk to you about this forever and ever. And I do want to tell you, before I segue from your writing, I wanted to tell you, and I'm telling you this because, not because you need it for your affirmation, but because it kind of goes back to my philosophy of you never know who you are inspiring. That our world is a dark auditorium. You never know who's watching. There are people watching you that never say a word. Yeah. You don't know who you are impacting, both positively or negatively, based on what you say. But I absolutely loved when you challenged yourself to write on your blog every day. When you did your 365 days of writing, whatever the purpose was for you, and whatever you got out of that, and maybe it was burnout by the end. But I went to bed every night reading what you wrote. And I've never told you that before.
You haven't ever
told that. You never know who you are inspiring. You never know who you are impacting. And I think it's important that you do know, regardless of receiving those affirmations, that you do know how much value you have. And how many people you impact, and how many people are able to say, she inspires me. And that is a really, really powerful thing. There are people that will go through life having never inspired anyone, not even themselves. So as your peer, and as somebody who I have always looked up to in this business, and as somebody that I've looked up to in life, because, right, this business has brought us together, but aside from the business, we have become life friends, right? I want you to know how much value you do have to the community you're a part of, to those you don't even realize you're impacting. That people look to you. You are a powerful woman, and people look to you so that they can point their ships in the direction that you are. And I want you to know how much value you bring. So I just wanted to say that.
And
I really I could talk to you about so many things forever. So I want to come back really quickly and ask you just a couple things. Are you a morning or a night planner?
Planner?
Yeah.
Both.
Both.
So I sit down with my planner in the morning and make my plan for the day, but I also close out my work day every day. So I stop working at 4 every day. That's the goal for me. That's when my kids get home from school. And from then it's dinner and we're doing homework and flashcards and whatever, right? The things. So, and except for a couple nights a week when I have scheduled time when I'm doing calls or training or whatever. But I start in the morning. So I start my morning with, I'm in my Bible. Brian and I spend some time together every morning and I'm journaling every morning. Those are the things that, like, if they don't really happen, I'm kind of a mess. You know, it's like, that's just my rhythm.
How much earlier do you get up just so that you can do that?
So I mean, I don't know if it's earlier, but all 4 of my kids are in school now. So it's different too, right? Like they're all in school. So I'm up in the morning getting them ready for school. And then as soon as they leave, which is at 7:30, I'm in my Bible, I'm in my journal. Brian gets back from dropping them off and then we spend some time together. And then I have already spent the time journaling and I'm looking at my day at the same time, figuring out these are the things that are the most important that have to get done today. I've definitely struggled with workaholism before, and also struggled with, like, if I say I'm going to do something, then I don't feel value until it's done. Not anymore. I have been there in the past. And so I have to be really careful that I don't look at my day and the success of the day based on what I accomplished or what I checked off the list, because that's how I used to value my day. Was it a good day based on how much got checked off? But now I value my day. So at the end of my work day, 4 o'clock. So before 4 o'clock, usually I try to stop at 3:30. That means that at 3:30, I'm getting my planner back out. I'm reviewing. Okay, this got done. This got done. This is undone. And then I'm rescheduling into the next day, the day after that. Okay, when can I shift? What can get done? I'm constantly, I think planning is so vital. But not enough people spend the time to do it. So they have this list of things that needs to get done, but they have no idea when they're going to do it, you know, and then you wonder why people are overwhelmed. But I also make an intentional, I'm intentional about looking at my day and saying, how did I feel about today? So I don't look at what did I get done? I do look at that, but that's not where I'm getting my value from the day. Because honestly, I never get all the things done on my list ever. I'm very overambitious in my planning, and that's okay. But usually it's just, it's almost like I'll plan everything for Monday. I'm like, I'm gonna crush it all today. That's not gonna happen. You know, it's like, so that I'm shifting, but it's me looking at the end of my workday going, how did I feel about today? Did I feel good working? Did I get up and walk enough? Did I have enough conversations face to face with people, you know, or was it just me at the computer? And if it was that okay? You know, just evaluating. It's more of that intentional thought process of how do I feel? So I'm a both, morning and night.
God, I love that. I'm seeing, and I was hoping this would be the case, but I'm seeing through these interviews, there's common threads. There's common threads on why these women are successful. There are common threads on what makes us tick, and the acknowledgement of what ignites us. And so it might seem like a silly question, but I love exactly what you said to kind of validate why it's important.
Yeah.
What is the biggest compliment someone has paid you?
Ooh, geez. Honestly, the one you just gave me was pretty amazing. I think that the compliments that mean the most to me are ones that are rooted in me doing the things that I know I'm called to. Does that make sense? So for instance, we've been hosting marriage retreats in our home and women's retreats here that everyone thinks they're coming to get business, and it's really not business. It's really just like good, deep personal work. But it's such hard work, those retreats, emotionally. for me, and physically, all the things. But we have everybody that comes sign the bottom of our dining room table when they leave. And the coolest thing is my daughter, who's 14, she has been to our last several, we call them our dreamers and doers retreats for women. And she's helped. So she's helped Brian cook, and she's helped do whatever. Like, she's just been around to help. And getting to watch her watch me do the thing that I was made to do has been the most inspiring thing to me. It's been the thing that's like made me want to keep running and made me want to keep doing the things. I remember the last one we did. It was just hard. They're just hard emotionally. It's just like you said before, I don't do small talk. And if you're coming to my house, you're coming. Like, get ready. Like, I want to know you. I want to know who you are, and I want you to know you. And so, the last one, it was just hard. I was overwhelmed and I was tired, and Addie was under the table reading some of the things. Brian's never gotten under our table, but I've been under there a couple times. But this last time, I hadn't been under there in several months. And I got down there. She's on one side under the table and I'm on the other. And I'm reading what people wrote. And I'm getting emotional. And I catch her eye. She's 14. And she looks at me. She goes, "Mama, it matters. What you're doing matters." And I think, hands down, that's the best compliment that I have ever been given, to be looked at by my daughter after doing the thing that I know that I was made to do, even when it's hard, even when it's confusing, even when I don't know the exact next step. And her seeing that I'm doing the thing that I was made to do. That's what I wanted more than anything, right? Is can you imagine a life where your kids are watching you do the thing you were made to do? Like, what a gift. And that's what this business has given me, is that gift to be able to say, not only do I care about your business, I care about who you are. And I want to watch you bloom into your potential. And I want you to grow into your potential. And I want you to push fear and lies and untruths out of the way so you can become who you were made to be. And getting to do that for women and helping them dream and helping them see and be honest about what they want has been the biggest gift in my life. But watching my daughter watch me do it has been, I mean, I don't even have words for it.
That is the coolest, awesomest story as an answer to that question.
I didn't know that's what I was going to tell you. It's just where it ended up, honestly.
But I love that, because don't we strive to be, and our kids look at us like we are the most important. We looked at our parents that way, most of us. But to hear them say that, when it clicks that the conference calls and the Scentsy bars and the time with all of these people, when they realize and it clicks the impact that mom is making.
So I want to say this to all of you, and to you specifically, with small people at home. It can be so, we had this conversation on the phone the other day. It can feel like you're so in the thick of it. And I have a kindergartner, a third grader, a sixth grader, and a freshman. So I have all the ages. But I'm grateful for my 14-year-old and my 6-year-old, because there's so much perspective in between, right? Like, it can feel like you're in the middle, in the thick of it. And sometimes it feels like they're never going to get it, or they're never going to understand. Or I know I felt guilty as a mom sometimes, because I felt like, well, even though I'm home and I need to be working, I don't know, there's always guilt. And here's the thing, guilt is never an emotion that's going to drive you in the right place. Maybe it means like that you do need to evaluate your yeses and your nos, but don't let guilt keep you from the thing that you're called to do. You can do it well. And like I said before, you can be a good mama, and you can be an amazing leader, and you can be a great wife. You can do all of those things. But when you feel like you're in the thick of it, you have to keep going, and you have to keep going with purpose. It goes back to what we started this conversation with, is it's got to be driven and centered around you becoming who you were made to be. And that's going to make it all worth it in the end. If you're not growing and changing in the midst of what you're doing, you're going to get stuck and you're going to stall out, and it will not be worth it, because it's like I said before, even if you're not burning out, you will burn out, because you can't keep chasing something if you don't know what you're growing towards. What's the goal? Like, what's the why? You can't, so I think what I'm trying to say is, like, even in the midst of like raising small humans, if you continue to grow, you keep taking the steps to do the things, to heal, to grow, to change, to move into who you were created to be, that's going to be the impact that your kids see long term. It's not going to be about how big your business is. My kids could care less. They don't know. They have no idea. They have no idea how many people we have on our team. Like, they don't know any of that. But what they do know and see are the women that we're actually having real impact with on a face-to-face basis at our table, over coffee, over Zoom, right? Like, those are the things that they're going to see and that are going to matter to them one day. And those are the things you have to keep doing.
Do you have a family motto? Do you have something? Would you share it?
Yeah. So the Dalkes, we speak life and truth and live our lives for the glory of God. That's our short version. We have a whole paragraph. We took our kids away and did like a weekend away. One of the best books I've ever read is called The Secrets to Happy Families. It's a book that we talk about in our marriage retreats, but it talks about the core concepts, all research based on families that last and kids that grow up in like that, basically families that don't screw their kids up, pretty much. You're going to mess up, but that doesn't mean you can't have rhythms as a parent that help foster the health and well-being of your kids. So one of the big things in the book, it talks about eating around the table together, which is a huge thing at our family. Huge thing. I mean, we've made hard decisions. Even as my kids are getting older and more involved in things, where we move things to make sure that the six of us sit at the table at least once a day together. It's vitally important to the structure of our family. And my kids' health and well-being. Like, when we get out of the habit of that, if there's a couple days of busy, I can see the change in my kids almost instantly. But I was saying, we got away. So this book talks about getting away and creating a family motto and creating almost these sayings that you repeat. So it's almost like you're disciplined, right? So one of the things I said to you is we speak truth and life. And so one of my kiddos right now has been struggling with kind of intentional, I don't know if it's intentional, but like putting down one of their siblings. And so we do a lot of positive talk in our family. So it's, hey, bud, that's not who you are. We speak life and truth in this house. You are a life speaker. You speak about the good things in people. You pull out what you see as positive things. And so even though he's struggling with that, because that's our sin nature, right? That we're speaking truth over that and reminding him in a positive way who he is, because that's part of our family motto. So it's these phrases that we use that work as who we are, but also as discipline sometimes. But we have a whole paragraph, and we set our kids down and we kind of started with like values. What's important to you? What matters to you? Like, and even our little kids, like our two littles were really little when we did this, and they're like drawing stick figures on Post-it notes as we're doing this. But the two bigger ones, like, we sat down and what matters to you, what's important. We started with this huge list of values and we whittled it down, and we have a whole paragraph of who we are and what we stand for. So anyways, that was a long answer.
No, but I knew. I've never asked anybody if they have a family motto, but I knew you'd have one. I knew. And it's interesting because we have a family motto, and we also, the most important thing that happens is no matter what, the four of us sit at the table together and eat dinner.
Yep.
And I always say I have to be able to look my child in the eyes, because you as a parent can tell through their eyes.
Yep.
if there's something on their mind
Yep.
or on their heart.
This is not, I know a lot of people don't already. I make sure that I hug every single one of my kids every day. And it gets harder the older they get. Actually, it doesn't. I think my favorite hugs right now are my 14 and 12-year-old. Like, they're big and they're like as big as I am. And it's different hug than my 6 and 9-year-old hugs. But it's easy to not do that. It's easy to let that, that sounds ridiculous. And when your kids are so small and they're all over you all the time, you're like, what do you mean you have to be intentional about physically touching your kids every day?
But that human connection, that feeling of love and touch is so important. I love everything that you bring up. I love talking to you.
I love
talking about you. And
we could talk all day.
We could. And I told you this would be the foundation of this would be about business and being a woman in business. But where we go, I never know.
Yeah.
You know, and I love where we went today. And I think there's some powerful messages in what you delivered. I think that I think that you continue to impact, and you are extremely relevant to human nature. And I think that's greater than being relevant in your business. I think you are relevant in community. I think you're relevant to humans. You're relevant to women. And so if there's anything that you wanted to say to leave us with, or to send us out, you can say anything that you want to say, any message.
You're so funny. I feel like I said all the things.
And that's okay too.
And this is just, really me telling you, because I think you'll be happy about it. So I have been off social media for like 2 years now. And I don't feel like I need to defend myself. It is not a lack of me showing up. It's a lack of me deciding to show up in a different way, for different people for specific reasons. But there's also been a churning and not attention. I like the word tension, because I think tension is a beautiful spot. People push away from tension so much, but I think that tension is often that tightening of something that is turning us and moving us and preparing us for something else. And I think pushing into tension is good. Anyways, I've been in a space of tension, knowing I need to write more, part of who I was made to do that. And I need to continue to do that. And I don't really have an avenue to do it. And I don't want to be back on Facebook or Instagram. And it's not for those things that I struggled with before. It's for, it's just other things. Like, I don't want to support the hustle and the busy. And so my website is going to be done by next week, and I'll be old school blogging again. And then you can have something to read before you go to bed.
I love it. I love it, because I think you are smart. I think you are intentional. I think that you have an amazing perspective. I think you are beautiful. And those of us that love being part of your world, we love hearing from you. And so I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, here's what I want to close with. And I think that okay, let me get words together. Don't think that resting is weakness. When we've talked a lot about burnout and hustle and like all the things, doing all the things. And I don't know enough people who know how to rest well. And I think that we think rest is weakness, and that we think stopping is quitting. Stopping is not quitting. Sometimes you need to stop something so you can think and evaluate and try something different. And I don't mean like quit on your business. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a pause. It's okay to step back and say, all right, something's not working. What's wrong? A lot of that times that's because you're not taking care of you first. And that comes from lack of rest, and that comes from lack of intentionality. Here's what I know is true. If you are not intentional about your yeses and about your nos and about how you're starting your day and ending your day, then you're going to have a really hard time getting where you want to go. And you are going to be tired. it's okay to intentionally rest. It's okay to take time for you. It's okay to take time for your family. There is this myth out there that if you stop, you're going to lose it all. And that's just not true. I sometimes think it is the stopping that builds momentum to take you someplace new. Now, that is not me saying to those of you who are already not doing what you need to do that it's okay to stop. Not what I'm saying. There's some of you, though, that have just overworked and you need a pause and a break to say, wait, I need to evaluate. That's okay. You do not have to be available to everybody 24 hours a day. The world will continue to spin. And if I had to say, there's anything I've learned in the last 5 years, is that rest is one of the greatest gifts and one of the biggest producers of creativity there is. Yeah. So that's all.
I love you and I thank you for this time together. I know everybody that is watching this says thank you too. So I'll speak for me and for them. And I will talk to you soon, friend.
All right. Love you.